This is indeed our OTB Sports Olympics show. Will be live every evening from 5 p.m. over the next 3 weeks across all of our social channels, and it's all in association with Indeed, who are proud to support Team Ireland at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Indeed believes the world works better when people are given every opportunity to unleash their true talents. Hashtag Talent Unleashed. And why the opening ceremony isn't until tomorrow. We have had further action in the football. The men's tournament has gotten underway today over in Japan, with Brazil, the standouts, I guess, beating Germany in Group D by 4-2. 3 of those goals coming inside a glittering half hour from Everton's own Richarlison. Elsewhere in that group, the Ivory Coast beating Saudi Arabia by 2-1. Meanwhile, Mexico caused possibly the shock of the day, beating France's under-23s by 4-1. We also saw action in Group C today, with Argentina losing 2-0, surprisingly, to Australia. Spain also held in that group 0-0 with Egypt today. So the football isn't necessarily going to be straightforward. And if we learned anything from the Rio Olympics 5 years ago, it's that boxing is very rarely straightforward. I'm happy to say we are joined on the line by the reigning WBO, NABO middleweight title holder, and indeed a former amateur champion in his own right, a European level and a 2013 world silver medalist, Jason Quigley. You're welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Richie. Cheers.
Delighted to have you along. First of all, with yourself, it's 2 months removed from that win over Shane Mosley. How are you feeling yourself, and what's next?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You know, I really enjoyed that last fight. Everything went to plan in there, and it's one of those fights that you come away with and you come back, you sit down and watch it, you see things that you can improve on and work on, but overall, you know, you're happy with the progress that you've made and coming away with a victory. It felt really good, and you know, we're pushing forward now, and there's big talk, there's big possibility that we could get Bobo Andrade for the middleweight world title as well, possibly later this year or at the end of the year.
Any idea where that could happen?
Well, I think it makes sense. There has been no real location made yet, but I think it makes sense to put it on the East Coast. He's an East Coast American himself, and obviously with all Irish fans, Boston or New York would be a handful, so it would.
Yeah, absolutely. With people coming back into arenas as well, you'd imagine if you're on that card, it's going to absolutely be hopping if you're fighting on the East Coast.
Yeah, like you'll be getting people that's not even into boxing going to it because there's something happening again.
That's it, yeah.
But yeah, no, it'd be unbelievable. It really would. And I've had 2 fights before in Boston, so I've had, and the support has been amazing over there. So I definitely love to get back there now, maybe in the TD Garden and Arena in Boston, or the Madison Square Garden in New York would be a clinker.
Even getting into those buildings themselves would be a dream come true, I guess.
Yeah, like it's, you know, I've been courtside at a Knicks game, and the atmosphere was unbelievable. Then the next night I was there for the Miguel Cotto and Saddam Ali fight.
Right.
The atmosphere was unreal, but you put that there filled with Irish, it's going to be a completely different atmosphere.
Exactly. Listen, that's the one thing we're really deprived of this time round, when we have nobody essentially who's going to be in attendance for this boxing tournament over in Tokyo. It is, of all of the sports, I guess, it is the biggest shame, because we've seen what a difference it can make, I guess, from a positive and a negative standpoint for Irish fighters down through the years. The positive obviously would be Katie Taylor in 2012. But it's not as if this is going to be completely alien, because so many of these amateur tournaments actually play out in pretty empty arenas year in and year out. The ones that we necessarily mightn't see, and then when they do bubble up to Worlds and Europeans, there might even be scant public people or members of the public in around the arena when they do go on. So it's not necessarily going to be as strange as some might make out.
I don't think so. You know, my experiences of boxing all over the world, we've been put into every corner of the world, especially those Eastern European type countries. We've been put in the stadiums where it's just, you know, the rest of that national team and its coaching panel, its physios that are in the crowd, and you get a few maybe local family people that's coming in for the home country to support. But, you know, without a doubt, I think it can be a massive advantage, because Ireland only have one previous Olympian, which is Brendan Irvine. So he has that experience of being there and going through everything. But for the other fighters, this is obviously going to be their first time at the Olympic Games. And I think it could be a very positive thing for them, because it's not going to be a whole country against them, or a whole nation that's packed in there and, you know, booing them, not cheering them, booing, supporting and roaring and cheering for the opponent that's across the ring from them. So I think it could be a very positive thing for a lot of these fighters that Ireland are taking over there. Yeah. And it's an opportunity they have to grab with both hands.
Exactly, yeah. Brendan's got a massive role to play then, I guess, because it was a fairly experienced team 5 years ago, and in certain aspects that, again, I guess, worked against them. Whereas this time around, there's been a clean slate almost. Brendan's going to use that experience he picked up from Rio 5 years ago and going to be able to impart that knowledge upon the younger members of the team.
Yeah, like, going to the Olympic Games, obviously I haven't been there, so I can't really speak too much on it, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of nervous energy. There's going to be a lot of energy used up, taking in the whole accommodation, all the simple things, you know, being in the village and seeing all these other Olympic stars that are walking around in the same place as you. So for me, Brendan will have been there, seen that, done that, and it won't be such a thing to him. Whereas I think the rest of the fighters, you know, could be walking around in a wee bit of a daze at some stages, thinking, "Oh, I'm really here," and you know, just bringing all that kind of atmosphere in. Some of them could use it to be a positive influence, and some of them could maybe get caught up in it a wee bit, get a little bit nervous of it, get a little bit jittery, and use up some nervous energy. So I think it's great that they have Brendan there to, you know, kind of relax things down a bit. He won't be all up in a heap about, you know, the whole experience of it. And of course, too, you know, the opening ceremony is going to be something that I think they should grab with both hands and, you know, really, really enjoy it. You know, I think the key aspect is to embrace the moment, take everything in, and not get too caught up on it or not get too down on it. Just kind of stay at that happy medium and enjoy the experience, but always keep into your head what you're there for and the purpose that you're there to do it.
I only found this out today that, you know, one of the kind of Cinderella stories that's on this boxing team is Emmett Brennan, who had to take out a credit union loan essentially to fund his training for these Olympics, and he's qualified and he's over there obviously in Tokyo now at this stage. You crossed paths with Emmett many moons ago.
Yeah, we were 11 years of age, and we both met in the National Boy 1 36 kg final. Yeah, so that was, you know, I have the picture in my house still of me and Emmett facing off, and the picture after, you know, two arms around each other. And he was with the St. Saviour's Club in Dublin at that stage, and it was, you know, it was an amazing experience because Emmett kind of just went off, you know, the radar then. I think he packed boxing in for a while and has come back at it now, and to see him going to the Olympic Games and, as she says, taking out a credit union loan to fund his training, you know, he deserves everything he gets, and I think he really has to go here now. And he could be the surprise package in terms of there's absolutely no pressure on him. He has achieved beyond what many people probably thought he would have achieved, not that what he thought he would have achieved, because I know that he's very focused, very driven, and has a lot of belief in himself. So he's going into this Olympic Games now with zero pressure. He's already achieved beyond achievable for a lot of people thinking about him getting to the Olympic Games. But for him now to go in there, enjoy it, but to even make more of a scene, to make it even a bigger Cinderella story, he has every opportunity.
It's usually like people can, like, we got the draws today, and you might mark all these paths throughout, you know, what's going to be a potential quarterfinal, semi-final, who could potentially win the final. But as ever, it is that first fight, and there's so many tricky ones looking down through the draws. I mean, Brennan in particular has to go up against Uzbekistan's Dilshodbek Ruzmatov, who's a silver medalist at the last World Championships and a reigning Asian champion as well, in round of 32. Like, these are stacked fields pretty much throughout the entire competition.
There's no easing into it for Emmett. You know what I mean? He is he's got the short end of the stick now for his first fight. He can look at it both ways. You know, he can look at it and be like, "Oh, here, I've got the world silver medalist, probably one of the favourites to go on and medal, and if not won the Olympic gold." Or he can look at it being like, "Right, there's zero pressure on me. I'm here at the Olympic Games. I go in here now. I beat this guy. I could go and win an Olympic gold. I could go and win an Olympic medal. That's the attitude that I think that he has to bring into this fight, because obviously the cards are stacked against him a little, and he has to go in here now knowing that, you know, a victory over this Uzbekistan can really put him up there, and everyone will take notice of him. And he'll be a very firm favourite of bringing home a medal if he can get past this Uzbekistan.
What kind of character was he like way back when you were 11?
Gee, that's a real while ago now. Yeah, Emmett was, you know, I think everyone at 11 years of age, you know, we're all very, you know, smiley and happy and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I remember, obviously, I won the fight and I beat him in the final, but I remember him crying after the fight. And at 11 years of age, I got beat when I was maybe 14 years of age and cried after the fight as well. So, you know, we were just very young, and, you know, we were probably very excited to get to that stage. And because at 11 years of age, that's the first time you can enter championships. Yeah. And that was the first, you know, All Irelands and Ulsters, Connachts, whatever, Leinsters it is you have to go through to get there. And I think, you know, getting to that, like we were 36 kgs, 11 years of age, fighting in the National Stadium ring. We were like two wee puppets in the ring there. So we were like all the size of us. So I can't really remember too much on the whole thing about it. But, you know, I've never really came across Emmett too much since that fight, to be honest. You know, because, as I said, I think he left boxing for a while, and I was gone pro and everything when he kind of came onto the scene then again. So, you know, hopefully I'll cross paths him shortly again.
Absolutely. When did you stop crying at defeats, by the way?
Who, him or me?
You.
Oh, me. Until I won the next year round then. I was able to smile again then.
Absolutely fair enough. Listen, the last thing you kind of want when you're going into one of these competitions, whether it's European, Worlds, or even the Olympics as well, is to be the last, I guess, fighter out. We've seen the pressure that it puts on members of the Irish team in previous years. Kurt Walker doesn't necessarily have that, because he's first into action. He's going to be up at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning against a Spanish opponent who's a former bronze medalist at the European Championships all 4 years ago. But he gets to be the first to go out. You're acutely familiar with Kurt Walker. You came up alongside him.
Yeah, Kurt was, you know, he was a big talent, just on the fringe of getting into that national team whenever I was there, and was always knocking on the door, was always, you know, keeping his pressure on the next fighter. And I was in the very same similar positions myself whenever I kind of took that step from youth into senior boxing. Darren O'Neill was the lad that I was chasing all the time for those years, and Kurt was the same, and now everything has paid off for him. He's went, and, you know, he's one of those experienced fighters on the national team right now. He's went and he's medalled. He's come home with European gold medals. He has went out there and he's proved himself big time. And I think now that this is something that Kurt has to look back on and understand the years that he has been fighting for his position on the team. He has it now. He's proved himself now that he is a world-class fighter. And for him to get in there now, full of confidence in himself, which I'm fully confident that he is, get in there, perform. He's up against the Spaniard. He is a European bronze medalist as well, I think, from 2018. So he is. It's not one of those fights that you get to eat yourself into. Like, yeah. Kurt really has to go in and perform first day to get past this guy, and I believe that he can. And once he does, I believe that that'll be a great marker for Kurt. It'll be a great confidence booster for Kurt. It'll really get the ball rolling for him, because he knows he beat a good, formidable opponent, and he's pushing on in now to the last 16 after that. So fingers crossed he can go in and put in a good performance, come away. And if Kurt does put in that good performance in this fight, I believe that he could be on a bit of a run in this Olympic Games.
Yeah, with those fights, with the layout of the competitions and stuff, it almost seems to be much better if you are able to go in. Like, nobody wants a really difficult opponent that's going to be taking everything in your locker to get past, but to be able to know that you can bring yourself up to that level from the get-go is a massive fill-up going forward, because then listen, that's now proved to be my baseline. I can only improve upon it from here.
Yeah, there's so much of this. Like, every one of these fighters are talented. It's so much a mindset at this stage of the game now. All the hard training, all the hard work is done. All the blood, sweat, and tears is long in the past now. This is about getting your head right, getting into that ring and performing. And it doesn't matter if you come out and you're up against the world #1 seed, or you're up against a lad you've never heard tell of. You have to get in there and you have to perform. You have to treat every fight as if it's the Olympic final, or a lot of people just want to get a medal at the Olympic Games. You have to treat this fight as your medal fight or your Olympic final. And I think they all, I have full belief and full confidence in the team that they're all very well there mentally, and they're all looking forward to getting into the ring now. But for the lads that are getting, or the women that are getting a tough draw, they have to get in there and grab the opportunity. For the lads and women that are getting in there that mightn't have, like Kelly Harrington is up against, I can't remember who she's up with, the winner of so-and-so, but she has to get in there. And these two girls have never really, they're not a big name at the minute, whereas Kelly is a former world champion. She's a #1 seed. She has to get in there and set the mark, set the tone early, and get off to a good start, because it's a long time being out there in training camp, getting used to the surroundings, all going through all the qualifying stages, everything like that. It's a long journey and it's a long route to get to where they are now. And they just have to remember everything they've been through, get into that ring, and just put on a class performance.
Yeah, Kelly has to wait until Friday week. She's not going to be
exactly
until 3 a.m. on Friday week, July 30th, for those interested. She can be taking on either the Italian Rebecca Nicoli or Mexican Esmeralda Falcone. So she has a bit of a time to wait. That's the thing that can kind of eat at you, but she has something to look forward to, in the sense that she can analyse that fight and break down strengths and weaknesses of whoever it is that comes through, and then act upon that. But she does have a target on her back, because she is the big name going into these Olympic Games from an Irish perspective, and probably, I guess, indeed, in women's boxing in general.
Yeah, we all know Kelly, and she's a great person for boxing. She's lovely, down to earth, a good, honest person that gets in there and gives it her absolute all. And I don't think that kind of thing will get to her. But when it comes to these clinical moments, this is where you need to be fully focused. You can't have any slip of the focus, slip of the determination. Everything needs to be looked at now. Your phones, your social media use. You can't have any negative thoughts coming into your head. You need to stay as positive a routine as you can also. And I really believe that, I think everyone is looking at Kelly as our biggest medal hope. And I hope she doesn't take that on her. I hope she just goes there, has fun, gives it her absolute best. And I hope all these fighters know that we're so proud of them for getting to where they've got to already, to getting to have that flag on their back, getting to having that Team Ireland across their back and representing our country at this Olympic Games, and get in there and enjoy it. And just every fight now, everything that happens for them is a bonus on top of what they've already achieved. And I think Kelly is going to be a great role model for the team as well out there, because, as I said, she's the big target now over there in her division, and she has went on and she's become a world champion. So she has all that experience of, getting to that final, fighting for that gold medal, fighting for that massive accomplishment of being a world champion. And being an Olympic champion and a world champion, they're very much the same. They just have a different title. So I think that she's going to have a great time. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be interesting as well, because I know that Katie Taylor's nemesis is going to be in her weight division as well, and it's going to be interesting to see if that bout comes off also.
Yeah, I think everybody will be waiting for that one further down the line. Just in terms of this team's success, I don't think is going to be measured in medals alone. I mean, there's going to be progress for each and every athlete, and every athlete over there is different. But if you're looking at these 7 boxers, how many or who do you think are realistic live medal prospects?
So, we're looking at Michaela Walsh is definitely, a classy operator. She has gone to big tournaments before and she has medalled. She has proved that she can do this, at that level, at these international tournaments. She can go away, and she's won gold in the qualifiers as well. So this really shows her pedigree, and I think Michaela has a great mindset. She's very driven, very focused. Doesn't care about anybody, what they say, what they do. She gets in there and she takes care of business. I think Michaela is a big medal hope. I think Kelly Harrington, obviously, like we spoke, is a big medal hope as well. And then with the lads, then I believe that Kurt Walker, he's been there, he's done it, he's proven that he's a world-class fighter. I think that he can go on and do really, really well. We have Aidan Walsh, who, has got the bye, and I think he's fighting some strange country and the winner of Cameroon. Don't want to make a mess of myself. Okay. You're trying to pronounce it.
Fabiso Dlamini or Cameroonian Albert Mengue Ayisi is who he's possibly got in line from there. I saved you that bump in the road.
That's why you're doing this and I'm on the ring punching. But he has a great chance. He's into the last 16, gets one of these guys, wins that fight, which is a very big, high possibility. He's one fight away from a medal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're the number one favourite against the lad that nobody's given a chance. If you're in that position for a medal, anything can happen. And Ireland have a great, great mindset and a great, great pedigree of going to these Olympic Games, medaling, coming through fights that, people don't think they're going to come through. And I have a lot of belief in this team, but those would probably be my picks that have a massive medal chance. And look, it's just great to have the Olympic Games going. It's great to have all these fighters at it. There's so much uncertainty. I don't know. I couldn't imagine what they've been through with the Olympics, the whole qualification thing as well. It's happening, it's stopping. Yeah. It was happening. It was actually, the tournament was going and then it was called off. And then is the Olympics going to happen? It's just such a relief, I would say, for these athletes now to be where they are today and to know that, fingers crossed, it goes fully ahead, but that it's ready and now it's happening for them. And I really can't wait to tune in and watch them all, do us proud.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Hopefully we'll speak to you later on in the games. But for now, Jason Quigley, thanks so much for joining us.
Top stuff. Thanks for having me.
There you go. That's Jason Quigley looking ahead to Ireland's prospects in the boxing ring, which of course has been so profitable for us down through the years. But it's time to look at some other athletes who are going to be representing Ireland at these games. We've had loads of different stories heading into these games. As we mentioned, Emmett Brennan has been a fantastic Cinderella story in the boxing, but I don't think he's indeed alone. Joining us to speak more about the Irish team in general heading to Tokyo, or over there already indeed, is sports journalist Cliona Foley. Cliona, you're welcome to the show.
Hi Richie, how are you?
Not too bad. Listen, 5 years ago, I think we were all enthralled by the surprise package, one of them at least from an Irish perspective, in Scott Evans in the badminton. We have our own real star, real genuine star, which isn't to downplay what Scott did in Rio, but in Nhat Nguyen, we have somebody whose ceiling seems to be very, very high and an incredible backstory as well. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, he has a fantastic backstory, but before we even look at that, he was a European under-17 champion and he was a European bronze junior champion. And I remember interviewing, that was in 2018, and he was disgusted he didn't win it. Do you know what I mean? He's really competitive. He's a regular quarterfinalist at World Championships in the last few years. He's only 21, which is quite young actually in badminton. But the most interesting thing about him was he got COVID at the start of this year, and he struggled in a tournament, last year rather, and he struggled in a tournament when he came back. But actually, this year he went to the All England Championships and he beat the number 13 in the world at it, and made the last 16, and that's really good. And the last 16 will be the big thing for him, because the way badminton works, it starts in a round robin, and you get one of the top 16 in the world seeded into your group. So you have to beat somebody at that level then to get into the knockout stages, But he has a fantastic story. Not least, Richie, you'll appreciate this, because he has given us insight into Stephen Cluxton in his time.
Oh, really?
Stephen Cluxton was his maths and his physics teacher in Artane, in St. David's, and he said he was great fun. So that's interesting. If you live in North Dublin during lockdown, he could have delivered a takeaway or made a takeaway to your house, because the family own a Chinese takeaway in Clare Hall. But he is emblematic, I suppose, of so many brilliant immigrant stories that crop up, I think, and help to make the Irish Olympic team so special. His family came to Cavan when he was 6. He had no English, had a word of English. He says that he remembers his mum stealing toilet paper from the public toilets because they had no money and they were struggling to make ends meet. And they are very much a self-made family. And that drive, and he reckons it's a Vietnamese thing as well. They lived in rural Hanoi. You know, he said the whole thing was a massive culture shock to them when they came here. But he says that Vietnamese work ethic that the Vietnamese, you know, always talk about, he said that is part of them. He's got one of the best Instagram account names, I think, on the Irish team, and that is with the silent H, Nacho Cheese. So you can find him at Nacho Cheese. Which is one of my favourite ever. One of the better ones I've ever seen was Amy Foster, the sprinter, who her Twitter handle was at Amy Faster, which I thought was always brilliant as well. So I think every athlete should have a decent social media tag of some kind. So I was laughing because I was just listening to Jason there talking about, you know, conviction and self-confidence. And I think that that's really what Nhat has. Like at the end of his bed, apparently, he's always had this sign, you know, saying, you know, Olympic champion. Like he says he's going for gold. And he just has that real positive, bubbly personality. They do a lot of, his net play is his strength. He loves those little chip shots. But to get quality play and to get quality training, like the McGee's ahead of him, and unfortunately, they've been very unfortunate, Chloe and Sam, not to make the Olympics because their last 3 qualifying tournaments were cancelled, which affect them hugely in their rankings. But he, you know, he often, they train a lot and play professionally really in Denmark. And he's been based out there. And Scott Evans, actually, he spent a couple of months with Scott Evans, I think in 2019, training with Scott. So they've all helped him out. And with talent like his, he often plays 1v3 across the net, even out in the National Stadium. That's how he practices. Wow. Or they'll play. There's brilliant footage of him training with Daniel McGee, who runs the National Badminton thing, where they're keeping between them. It's like a juggling thing where they're keeping 3 or 4 shuttlecocks together going over the net. You know, just rolling over the net, keeping them constantly on the move. So it's a game of reflexes really, and that's he says, you know, it's power as well. And apparently a shuttlecock, the fastest shuttlecock ever recorded in a smash was over, I think, something like 40 kilometres an hour. But he says that the net thing is his strength. And when he was younger, I think he struggled mentally with the mental side of the game. But he says that he's grown up a lot in the last year, particularly because when he got locked down, he was at home and he couldn't. He's usually traveling all over the world. So that's when he, you know, rolled up his sleeves and got stuck in the family business. And he says all of that was a huge factor for him.
He's still only 21 as well. That's the remarkable thing about him. It seems like the ceiling is still pretty high for him.
He got his first sponsor when he was 14, Richie. Yeah, so like he got his first gear sponsor when he was 14. Very, very, very talented. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But, you know, I think we're going to be seeing him for a few Olympics to come. Yeah, fingers crossed. I think what took a lot of people was by surprise, because I think their announcement came so late, was our judo entrance. We mentioned Chloe and Sam McGee, who won't be there, but we'll have a pair of siblings, not only the Walshes in the boxing, but also Megan and Ben Fletcher in judo. This is a remarkable story how they came to be there as well. It is, and while we mentioned I don't know whether it was mentioned before, but the Walshes actually make Olympic history, not just Irish Olympic history, because there's never been a brother and sister in boxing history before at an Olympic Games. Because remember, the women's only came in 2012, so they're making Olympic history, which is fantastic. Yeah, the Fletchers, and they have a really interesting story. And you know, it's almost like the opposite of Nat's story, because their mum, Alma Keating, comes from Bruff, a small town in County Limerick, and her dad was an economic immigrant, went to England to look for work, and when she was 7, the family followed him and went over, and these are her 2 children. Her babies, as she said, are going to the Olympics to represent Ireland. So it's an amazing story. Most of their family relatives now, as I understand it from talking to Meg, are in Dublin, but they took their mum back to Bruff a couple of years ago. I think in 2017 or 2018, they declared for Ireland in 2017. They took their mum back to find her family home in Bruff, and they couldn't find it. And she went to Mass the next day and bumped into somebody and said, "Oh, you're looking in the wrong place. I'll show you where it is." It was such an Irish story. So Megan is older. She's older by 2 years, but she had great form in 2019, and then the lockdown came. But actually, at this year's World Championship, she fought for a bronze medal, and that's as high as any Irish judoka has ever really fought at that level. So she feels like she's come back into form well. Ben is amazing. He's a former World Junior bronze medalist, and he actually competed for England in Rio. But they both signed to go to Ireland in 2017. He actually, he's a very regular medalist on the World Cup and the Grand Prix circuit, which is the top level. But he broke his leg in tibia and fibia in a competition in Israel in February.
Jesus.
So he came over to Ireland last week to get the Irish medics, the doctors, to clear him to see was he okay and would he, because they couldn't believe that he was back in contact already and back sparring in full contact. So he got the all clear and off they go. So it's an amazing story. As I said, it's the reverse. You know, it's the Irish who've gone abroad and made lives abroad, and these are their children, if you like.
Yeah, there's so many stories when you go down through that Olympic team. There's people who are going to make their breakthroughs. There's people who've been bubbling under in their particular sports for the last while. Only yesterday, really, when I was looking down through the 116, I think we have going over to Tokyo, which is nuts. You look down through that show jumping team, and you're thinking there's pedigree there, because Bertram Allen's been picking up results here and there down through the last 3-4 years. Cian O'Connor has his own unique Olympic pedigree, of course, there too, and throw in Dara Kenny as well. There's a decent chance that under the radar show jumping could provide some rather interesting entertainment for Ireland.
The equestrian often does.
Yeah.
And actually, the one I'd be watching for as well on the equestrian side, Cathal Daniels, who is a real underage superstar in eventing, and he's part of a very talented eventing team, and I would think they're looking to make waves out there as well. But I think particularly him. Very often with the equestrian, it's down to the quality of their horses, Richie. You know, if the horse is in form and getting the right results. But you're right, you never know where they're going to pop out of. Just on the judo, like, my goodness, what a sport to be involved in. It's a 4-minute round. Your Olympics can be over in a split second, because if you get thrown and they get a nip on against you, which is to land you flat on your back and perfectly, the fight's over. You don't even get the 4 minutes. Do you know what I mean? So, like, they train so hard and so long for something that can happen, can end or continue very quickly. But of course, the great thrill for them as well, the judo, is that Japan is the home of judo, and in a normal circumstance, the place would be absolutely rocking, because that is what the Japanese want to see.
Yeah, they're going to be in the famous Budokan Hall as well, which has its own magic historical backstory along with it too. Who else jumps out at you that you're looking forward to seeing over these next 2-3 weeks?
Well, I think Rhys McClenaghan, the gymnast, I'm really looking forward to seeing him. This is a guy who trains to such perfection that he sometimes has a credit card between his toes to keep his legs absolutely jammed together and to hold on to it. And I just think he is, again, he's like a lot of the young people on this team. They're really confident and really self-confident without being in any way arrogant. They train so hard that they're confident in the level of training they've done, and they've said, I can be as good as everybody else in the world. And he has been brilliant, European medalist, world medalist, European champion and world medalist in pommel horse. So I just think they went to Europeans this year, and a lot of them were trying to up their difficulty grade, and so they were trying out new things, and he fell, but he wasn't the only one. Quite a few of the top pommel guys fell in that competition, so they were taking risks and they were pushing it. But you would just it would be an amazing story if he won a medal. He's terribly young. In fact, I think he's 22 today, Richie. Wow. I think today is his 22nd birthday. So what a place to be celebrating your 22nd birthday at the Olympics.
Judging by his Instagram, he's going to be having some decent fun for his birthday as well, it seems.
You've seen him jumping on the bed.
Well, yeah. But he is like, we interviewed him in here, both himself and Johnny Ward, I think, spoke to him within the space of about 6 months. And like, I can't remember speaking to an Irish athlete who is so confident, and again, without being arrogant. It's just, he knows, he's fully aware of everything that, and I guess that's gymnastics for you, because you have to be aware of every single part of your body and what it can do as it relates to your sport. And he is 100% confident in what he does and his abilities, and his abilities to perform well as well. Like, he's not just going over there ticking a box saying, "I am going to the Olympics, this is great." He, I think, more than any other Irish athlete heading out there, wants to come back with a medal.
But you see, he was going over to compete in the English Championships, and Louis Smith and Ben Whitlock were Olympic champions, and he was competing against them. So he's not afraid of the very top in his sport, and then he's also had the results to back him up. He's very mature for his age. You probably found that as well. And also with gymnastics, it's so rehearsed. It's so specialised. It's so rehearsed. You just repeat. Having said that, it's very precarious as well. Like one tiny instant and on the pommel you have to be in constant motion, so any tiny pause you could lose a mark there, so but he is one that certainly, if he doesn't medal at this one, I'd say he will medal again, because he has that quality. He is amongst the very top in the world. Yeah,
so many members of this team, you're looking at them across several different sports, you're thinking that this is the Olympics before the Olympics, in Paris in 3, particularly that there's only a 3-year gap between now and Paris, is that the next one is when they will really be peaking, and when we can look at a decent, and again, I mentioned it with Jason there, medals isn't everything as regards the measurement of how this team does, but we will be looking at a decent haul of medals coming home from Paris.
Yeah, and you were talking about the boxers there, like somebody like Aoife O'Rourke, who's after getting a really tough draw. I think she's after drawing the bronze medalist, isn't she, from Rio? But she is super, super talented. She's from Castlereagh, and she's very young. And I think that this probably, this is only the start of her international career, because she hasn't come to boxing, she isn't in boxing anything as long as Michaela or Kelly. She's been relatively new to it. She played GAA in Roscommon, but her success is only starting to come now that she's, moving up into the elite level. So she's one, I think, again. And I think you're right. There's a lot of young, even on the track and field side, there's a lot of young athletes that we're going to be seeing much more of. But the other thing is that the fact that if somebody comes close or, makes a final here and thinks they're very close, the fact that there's only 3 years to the next one may also keep them on. Yeah. I've heard Tom Barr talk about that, as he was saying, if you thought it was another 4 years after the ones we've put through, especially the last year, how awful it's been, you'd be saying, no, this is it, I'm done. But because it's only 3 years, the next time he's thinking, well, let's see how it goes, and then let's see what happens, so. Yeah. Tough. We'll all get fantastic joy from them over the next few years, next few weeks. And it's funny, Nhat, I remember saying before that he was so young. He was watching London, and there's a Malaysian guy, De Jong Wei, who's his favourite. He was beaten in the final, and he was, as a kid, he was saying, "I'm going to go to the Olympics. I want to avenge him. I want to win a medal for him." He's a really, really charming character, Nhat. He's got a gorgeous personality, and I've seen a few interviews with him. I've interviewed him a few times, and one of the things he said was, it's great to just be a good human being, and he is just. I think people, whenever they see people like him and Jack Woolley interviewed, you just can't but love these guys who are working away at their craft and, competing with the best in the world, and still just really nice guys behind it as well. Yeah, it's brilliant. Listen, aside from the football, it will all get underway in earnest tomorrow. We've got the opening ceremony, and then of course the rowing and the boxing is all going to get underway pretty quickly after that as well. Cliona, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us in the Olympic show. Thanks, Richie. I'm looking forward to it as well. Cheers, Cliona. There you go. That's Cliona Foley. And we will be back indeed throughout the course of the Olympic Games across all of our social channels from 5 p.m. for the next 3 weeks. And it's all in association with Indeed, who are proud to support Team Ireland at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Indeed believes that the world works better when people are given every opportunity to unleash their true talents. #Talent Unleashed. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 5. The Olympic Show on OTB Sports with Indeed, proud partner of Team Ireland.